Welcome, fellow music and concert enthusiasts, to another episode of Stories. This is the series in which we retell and cover some of the spooky experiences you've sent in. I figured since I haven't really done this topic yet, we would go ahead and give it a try. Therefore, on today's episode, we will be covering stories from concerts, musicians, and much more that are sure to give you the spooks. Remember, if you have a story to send in, then you could submit it for a chance to be featured on a future episode. You can send it in at tcfnarrations@gmail.com. With that said, grab those instruments, because we're going on a spooky world tour. Let's get started. We begin our video with our first story. It all started at the concert venue. For some quick information on myself, I'm female, 20 years old, and this took place about 2 years ago. I'm a singer and guitarist who enjoys playing at coffee shops on the weekends. Now, for privacy reasons, I won't give you too many details. Also, this story spans a series of weeks, so I will tell you everything from the beginning. One evening, I'd gone to visit a friend of mine who lived about 2 hours away. I brought my guitar with me so we could go ahead and play at her house, and as it turned out, the coffee shop near her home was going to be throwing a small concert for various local artists. It was nice. Their little venue could hold up to 200 people, and it would give me an opportunity to play in front of a new crowd. This, though, would lead to a series of scary events that put me in quite some danger. So, the night arrives, and I'm set to play in about 20 minutes. As I sat in the waiting area, this man, who I'd say was in his late 40s, comes up to me. I'd describe him as about 6'3", 300 pounds, with long greasy hair in a ponytail, large glasses, and stubble for a beard. I was always friendly, so I ended up saying hello. I figured this would be it, but little did I know this would just be the beginning.
Hey, I saw you a little bit earlier in the parking lot. Sorry, I was just looking at you, but I was too nervous to come say hello. You know, you're really pretty. I was wondering, could we get a photo together?
It seemed kind of awkward, but I was nice and I took a picture with him.
Thank you so much. You don't know how much this means to me.
He then walks away, and I figured that would be the last time I would ever hear from him. So, it's finally my time to play on the stage. As I look into the sea of people in front of me, there he is, right in the front row, with his camera pointed right at me. The entire time I played, he stayed quiet, just filming. Finally, the show ends, and I'm taking some photos with some new fans. Again, the guy from earlier walks up to me, this time wanting to know some more personal things.
I was wondering, now that we're friends, do you want to add each other on Facebook, or maybe you have Snapchat? Or do you want to exchange numbers? By the way, do you have a boyfriend? It'd be really nice to get to know you more.
Friends? Since when were we friends? I tell myself. I end up telling him I have a fan page, but my personal Facebook was for family only. He kept insisting and wouldn't let me leave until I added him or I gave him my number. I figured that as a way to get him off my back, I would give him a made-up number and maybe then he would just leave.
Awesome. Let me go ahead and give you a call on your phone just so I can confirm you aren't lying to me. Let me put it on speaker.
I got the chills because I gave him the number for a local pizza shop. I figured the look on his face when he tried to call me later would be one of confusion. Since the pizza shop was closed, it ended up going straight to voicemail.
Sorry, but you gave me the wrong number. What's up with that? Oh, I see. You don't want to actually give me your real number, do you?
By now, his demeanor had changed and he started to get a bit more aggressive. My friend and I begin to walk faster to our car, but he follows. By this point, a couple other people had overheard his creepy conversation and were telling this guy to leave us alone.
Fine, be that way. See if I care.
He then walks off into an alleyway. Now, trust me, I wish this was the end of my story, but it was about to get a whole lot worse. Fast forward a couple of weeks later, and I'm in the library studying for a midterm. All of a sudden, I get a friend request from somebody named Robert Anderson. Side note, That's not his real name. I'm just using a made-up one for this retelling. Anyways, I don't know a Robert Anderson, so I go ahead and open the app just to see who he could be. Wouldn't you know it, it looked like the man from the concert a few nights ago. If that wasn't enough, I went onto my fan page and saw he had commented on almost all my posts. They simply said,
I'm going to find you. Just you wait and see.
but if that wasn't enough, he sent some messages which had photos he had taken at the concert, each of them creepier than the last. It made me so scared that I actually ended up deleting the whole page and my entire profile. Yeah, I know, a little too extreme, but I wasn't taking any chances. Fast forward another week and I haven't heard anything back from this creepy guy. I was at home by myself watching TV with my cat. It's around 1 in the morning and I began to hear a light knocking on my front door. I thought it was the TV at first, so I ended up ignoring it. However, my cat Fluffy starts meowing and goes up to the door scratching at it. Curious, I slowly start to tiptoe my way over so I could look through the small curtains. What I saw on the other side was one of the scariest sights I'd ever seen. I could see a dark minivan in my driveway. Also, that Robert guy, the one from the concert, was standing right in front of my porch with what looked like some sort of sharp object in his hand. But how? How did he find out where I lived? I never told him. Needless to say, I book it toward my phone and I call the police. All the meanwhile, I'm concerned he might try to break in at any moment. As I'm on the phone, I could hear something being thrown up against my kitchen window. I head over there, fearing the worst, and as I enter, I hear something break. Yes, you guessed it. He had thrown a large rock at the window, and now he was in the process of making his way inside. I grab Fluffy, and we both jump out the front door, where a neighbor had stepped out, presumably after hearing the crashing noise. I now go up to him, and about a minute later, we began to hear sirens approaching our street. Thankfully, the police had arrived, and they hid inside my home looking for him. They ended up finding him underneath my bed, and what was so scary was he had a pocket knife the entire time, and what he planned to do with it was something that really gets to me. As for the minivan, he had a bunch of cables and tape. Presumably it wasn't for anything good. I later learned that he was able to track me down, and it was the reasoning behind why he found out where I lived. It's now been over a year, and I've since moved to another state. My word of advice is this. Yes, be friendly to people. The world needs kindness. But be careful. Some people out there might try to take advantage of that. Our second story.
Give me everything you have.
This was back in the 90s when I was 21 years old and I went to go see AC/DC live. If you've never got the chance to see them in person, then wow, let me tell you, you've missed out on quite the show. This experience, though, doesn't really have to do so much with the show itself. It does have to do with what took place afterwards. After talking with fellow fans and friends into the late at night, it was time for me to leave the venue and head home. As I'm heading toward the parking lot, I began to notice somebody following me. I only noticed them because I turned around to get one last picture of the building. This person, who was wearing what looked like a ski mask, had his hands in his jacket pocket the entire time. He froze when I turned around to take the picture, and once I turned around, he calls me over.
Hey, wait a minute. You dropped your wallet back there. I want to give it back to you.
I guess I dropped it. I stopped to turn around, and he begins to get closer. However, I put my hand in my pocket, and I realized I had it with me the entire time. It was already too late. He had gotten my attention as he takes out a knife.
Okay, give me everything you have, and I promise I won't do anything bad to you.
I froze in that moment. Was I really being robbed after what had to be one of the greatest nights of my life? Time seems to freeze in those moments, and my adrenaline started to pump. Soon enough, fight or flight kicks in, and I choose flight. I began running like I was in a marathon. All the meanwhile, he's chasing after me. I knew if my car was just up ahead, I could get in there and I would be safe. But this was back in the 90s. You can't just press a button and have the door magically open. You have to manually put the key in, then opened the door. In case you were wondering why I just didn't run back to the venue, it was because I was already a 5-minute walk away. Since there was no one near me, I figured the only way out of the situation was if I made it to my car before he catches up to me. After about 20 seconds of running, I can see my old blue 1989 Toyota as it sat there waiting for me. I managed to catch a break though, as I can hear this guy trip behind me. I look back for a moment, and the knife flies in front of him. I take this as an opportunity to reach my car and unlock it. Quickly, I start it up as he now reaches for my door and begins kicking at it.
Open this door, now. If you know what's good for you, do it now or I'm gonna break the window.
After another moment in time, which seemed like an eternity, the car starts and I book it out of there. In the end, I'm not sure what would have happened had he not tripped. Most likely he would have caught up to me, and who knows what he would have done. Story number 3. Boston Concert Weirdo. It's safe to say I'm not the only one who enjoys going to concerts and seeing your favorite artists playing. Well, this describes who I used to be up until about 7 years ago. Ever since I had this creepy experience, however, going to concerts is something I'd rather avoid. Here's how things began. For some context, both my friend and I are female, and we were 19 when this happened. One day, I was at a carnival and we'd been playing some of the games. At one point, I ended up walking up to a booth who was having a raffle. Some of the prizes included PlayStations, Xbox consoles, and even tickets to see the band Boston. I'm a casual fan of theirs, and so I knew some of their hits. So I signed up for the raffle thinking, whatever, at least I tried to win. I get an email the next week, and it says I'd won 2 tickets to go see Boston. Sweet. This, however, was just going to be the start of what would come. So, Boston was playing at the Morongo Resort about an hour from where I lived. I take my friend Lexi with me, and soon enough, we're in line waiting to get inside the venue. While waiting in line, you saw people of all ages. You had the super fans that were probably all in their 50s and 60s, and you even had some families. Nice to know they introduced them to good music. Soon enough, the doors open, and we all start to make our way inside. Now, these seats weren't reserved. It was pretty much who got there first. Luckily, we still got a good spot in the middle. Out of nowhere, this older man, probably in his 50s, bumps into me and grabs me for a second. It was weird, but I figured he'd lost his balance. This would just be the start.
Sorry, I was just trying to get the seat next to you. Excuse me.
Whatever, it was most likely an accident, I tell myself. However, by the way he talked, it seemed as if he had a little too much to drink that night. Either way, we now wait for another 20 minutes while things are being set up on stage. And soon enough, the man next to us starts talking to Lexi and I.
Hey there, my name's Ricardo. What are your names? Are the two of you huge fans of Boston? I've been listening to them since the 80s. By the way, how old are you two? Do you two have Facebook? It'd be nice to connect with fellow Boston fans.
Lexi and I found it strange that he'd be wanting that info, but we just told him our names thinking he wanted to start a friendly conversation. To be fair, Lexi didn't have Facebook. She was more into Tumblr and Twitter. I had Facebook, but I wasn't going to tell this stranger I had one. After about 10 minutes, the lights went dim, and the band stepped out on stage. And just like that, the music starts playing, and the crowd goes wild. But something fishy was going on, and I'm not talking about the smell of the guy next to me. Out of the corner of my eye, I could see him scrolling on his phone, and he was on Facebook. Wouldn't you know it, he actually ended up finding my profile, as I could soon see him looking at my photos. Talk about creepy. But what I saw was he had clicked on the picture I had taken with Lexi and then posted online. I tagged the location, and he must have found it that way. I now whispered towards Lexi, and I tell her about what the man was doing next to me. She also thought it was weird, and we both started to genuinely get creeped out by the entire thing. We now decided to go ahead and move to the back of the room at the cost of losing our seat. As we tried to exit, He grabs my arm and almost causes me to lose my balance.
Wait, I sent you an invite on your Facebook. Accept it, okay?
The people around me started to catch on, and he soon lets go. Well, instead of staying around, Lexi and I decided to leave. Maybe a little too much, but I was really mad that he'd gone out of his way to ruin our night. It still wasn't over, though. Lexi and I are heading toward the exit of the building when soon enough we heard a familiar voice call out to us.
Hold on a minute. Don't tell me the two of you are leaving already.
We turn around and, it's him again. Lexi and I quicken our pace as he begins to give chase. Luckily, we see a nearby security guard and we tell them about the suspicious man. Well, do you want to know what he told them? He told them that he was our dad and that we had been acting up. It's scary because at first the security guard seemed to believe him. Okay, sir, if these two girls are your daughters, then what are their names? Suddenly, the realization that we given our names hits us because now he says,
Oh, well, duh, it's Lexi and Christine.
Both Lexi and I are now telling the security guard what he had done while we were in the show. Thankfully, he finally starts to get the idea, and he tells the man to go with him to a back room for questioning. He wasn't having any of this, and he soon throws a fit. He grabs a nearby bottle and almost hits the guard. The security guard suddenly goes into protective mode, and he tackles this guy down football style. Moments later, another security guard joins us to usher Ricardo away. That was pretty much it. Lexi and I go home, and we soon forget about it. Oh, and in case you're wondering, I ended up blocking him and never heard from him ever again. Story number 4. He didn't really work there. About 5 years ago, my friend invited me to a concert her high school was having. She's a year younger than me, and she lives in my hometown in Wyoming. I myself was 19 and had moved to California to study business. This was nice. I had some time available to take off, and so I flew out for the weekend. It was supposed to be fun. We would catch up, have some dinner and watch movies. Then the next night I would attend her concert. Then the next afternoon I would fly back to my dorm for the next week of university. That's how it should have gone down. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. The evening in question arrives, and I soon take my seat, excited to see my friend. We will call her Anna. Now, to quickly describe where she was playing, it was a performing arts building the school rents out anytime they have shows or plays. It fits about 500 people. Anyways, the show goes on, and about 40 minutes in, I have to use the bathroom. No big deal. I head out into the large hallway, and I started to make my way to go find the restrooms. This is when things would get creepy. Since this was the first time I'd ever been here, I had difficulty locating the bathroom. Seemingly out of nowhere, this man stumbled from behind a door and he begins making his way toward me. Excuse me, sir. Sorry to bother you, but do you work here? He was wearing a decent-looking suit, and by the looks of it, he appeared to be an employee.
Yeah, I work here. Follow me, I'll lead you there.
He grabs my hand and starts leading me down a hallway. I wasn't having any of this, and I tell him, I'm sorry, sir, but can you show me where the restrooms are without grabbing my hand? I'm not a little kid anymore. This seems to have angered him, as he now tells me,
What? I'm just trying to help you. Sorry. Come on, it's right around the corner.
Dumb, naive me should have just walked away, but I really had to go badly. So I took my chances. We make our way around the corner, and there's a door that says, Janitor's Closet. Well, this was weird. It wasn't the restrooms. I got mad thinking this guy had tricked me, but I soon became aware of what he had done. He had led me away from everyone and walked me to a part of this old building where surely no one was going to hear me. He now had me cornered, and I feared the worst. Suddenly, I could see his friendly smile change into a look of a madman. I froze as he takes out a knife and now tells me to go inside the room. In that moment, I remembered the pepper spray I had in my purse. I now pretend to turn to open the door, but instead I grab my pepper spray. Bam! I got him directly, and he starts crying out. I now book it down the hallway until I run into what actually looked like employees. Needless to say, we call security and they end up taking this guy. Here's what ended up happening. Police were called and he was questioned. As it turned out, he actually used to work there, and somehow he had snuck in with the intention of getting payback at his boss. I guess he managed to have changed his mind when he saw me, and he got other ideas instead. It's just nice to know I won't be seeing him ever again. Story number 5. U.S. Marine Friend to the Rescue. For some context, I'm 24 years old and female. A year ago, I'd just gone through a pretty bad breakup with my partner. We will call him Sam. Anyways, Sam and I had been together for close to 6 years before I found out what he had done. I won't get into too many details on what happened, but I will say it was a rough point nonetheless. One day, I'd been in my room just watching a bunch of sad movies when my friend Caitlin ended up texting me. Hey, so I know you've been going through a pretty tough time, so I wanted to go ahead and cheer you up. I wanted to invite you to go see this band that's playing in town. Wanna come along? They were a local cover band that were just up and coming, but I had heard they played some amazing sets. At first, I was going to say no, but then I told myself this would be a great opportunity to catch up with her and even get out of the house. Little did I know the danger that was waiting for me. That was something I wouldn't really expect. Fast forward a week later, and I go over to the bar they were playing at, excited to see my friend and this band. The concert hall itself was a decent size. I'd say it could fit a little under 300 people. Anyways, I meet up with my friend and we started to catch up. As we're talking, he comes up to us. Who I'm referring to was this 40-year-old something dude that looks like your typical troublemaker. Bald, tattoos everywhere, and he reeked of smoke. Caitlin, being the nice person, says, Hey man, what's going on? Are you excited to see this band?
Yeah, sure. By the way, what are you two doing here? Why don't you come with me? We could go back to my apartment and we could have so much fun.
This really made me mad, and one look over at my friend confirmed this mutual feeling. I almost thought they were going to fight. See, she's in the U.S. Marines, and she can be pretty intimidating when she's not being nice. I knew she could totally teach this guy a lesson if she wanted to. Instead, my friend tells him to leave, and moments later, he walks away. It was really weird though, but we dismiss him and we head inside. Fast forward about an hour in, and the show is really taking off. People are jumping around, and all in all, they're having a good time. At one point, Caitlin tells me she has to take a call on her cell phone, and she heads outside. I now take this as an opportunity to go grab some water. Worst mistake of my life. As I walked through the crowd, I ended up bumping into the weirdo from about an hour earlier. He now grabs my arm, which causes me to stop in place. As he got closer, I recognized the smell of cheap blue moon, and I knew this guy was out of it at this point. I managed to get him to let go, but he starts following me. Thankfully, I lost him in the crowd, and I now walk over to the bartender. This would have been the perfect opportunity to call security, but I figured as long as I was next to a bunch of people, he wouldn't try anything. About 10 minutes pass, and as I'm watching the show from where I am, there is still no sign of Caitlin. What there is a sign of, however, was someone walking up to the little bar I was at. Sure enough, it's Mr. Creepy Dude. I got the chills, and I told the people next to me about him. They really didn't seem to care, and what he does next, I would never forget. He begins calling me all these crazy things, and goes on about how I should go back to his house. Then, all of a sudden, I see him grab something in his pocket. In his angered state, he takes out a switchblade, and I fear the worst. Again, the people next to me were just watching as if they were seeing some sort of show. He starts to get closer, but then I see somebody run up behind him and tackle him down. Guess who had come to save me? Yep, my friend Caitlin. She had seen him acting up as she was walking inside, and that's when her training hit her. Poor guy stood no chance. Caitlin soon had him in a hold, and security and some bouncers show up moments later, and he's eventually kicked out. By now, the crowd and even the band had caught on to what was happening, and everybody starts booing him as they escort him out of the building. If there was one good thing about what happened, Caitlin got recognized from the crowd and the band, and both of us went up on stage as the crowd cheered us on. So, even though I was close to having something seriously bad happen, I do say this. If you see something happening and it's right next to you, don't just sit there and do nothing. Say something or help out. It's common sense. Anyways, that's my story. Story number 6. He wasn't who he said he was. Have any of you ever played the game Life is Strange Before the Storm? If you do you remember the scene of Chloe going to see a band play at this barn in the middle of nowhere? Strangely enough, my story is somewhat the same. This took place around 2006 when I'd entered college. At the time, people were really into bands such as Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco. All in all, that genre of music. Of course, I could never afford to go see them. However, my friend, who we will call Rebecca, tells me that her brother is friends with the lead singer of a somewhat popular local band. They would be playing at their dad's barn that was out in the countryside. The barn had been left empty for years, so they decided to make it their own little venue. Of course, Rebecca's brother and the bandmates were more or less over 25 years old, so naturally, it was intended for an older audience. However, being the college students we were, we wanted to go. Looking back, I wish we wouldn't have. The night in question arrives, and Rebecca and I make the hour drive out. When we had gotten there, we realized just how much more of a big deal this was. We were expecting about 20 or 30 people at most. There are easily over 300 people and cars parked everywhere. Luckily, since this was out on some farmlands, there was plenty of parking space. We now exit the car, and we can already hear the music rumbling through the fields. Seriously, these guys had the amps turned up to 11. It was crazy. Outside, you had some other college kids that were just talking and sitting next to a large campfire. One of them ends up calling us over, and he says, "Hey, aren't the two of you a little too young to be out here? Believe it or not, dude, my friend and I are both over 21. Leave us alone." In case you were wondering, we were both 20, but we would be turning 21 in the next few months. Either way, I don't think he really cared since he just turned around and said, whatever, just don't cause me any problems. Once inside, wow, what a sight. To the right, there is a table with merchandise. Then on the other side, you had a table with a bunch of red cups. Oh, and did I forget to mention the smell? Clearly, everybody here was off their rockers. I mean, mostly everybody appeared to be like college students, but even with all this madness, Rebecca and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. About 30 minutes in, Rebecca was out of it too, but I decided to stay clear of what they were serving. She was in the mosh pit while I stayed back drinking some Dr. Pepper. Out of nowhere, this man, who I would say in his mid-30s, comes up to me and introduces himself. "Hey, why are you sitting over here all by yourself? Don't you want to go in the crowd and have fun? Sorry, I just saw you sitting here and thought something was wrong. By the way, my name's Adam." He seemed friendly enough, so I talked to him for a little while. He introduced himself as Adam, and he tells me he got brought here by his friends. We soon connected, and eventually we both ended up returning to the pit. By this point, the opening act had finished their set list, and the main show was beginning. Soon, we're all being moved around as people are jumping and pushing. Slowly, I started to get pushed to the side of the crowd and into a dark corner of the building. This was when it would happen. An even older guy, probably in his 40s, grabs me by my hand and says,
"I need to see your ID. I don't think you're over 21, are you?"
Great. This guy was a bouncer, and he was going to catch on to me and kick me out of the concert. "Sorry, sir, but I left it in the car. I promise, I'm 22.
"You're coming with me, and I'm calling the police. Come on."
One thing was for certain. He doesn't look like a bouncer. As I'm trying to get away, he starts pushing me towards this dark hallway, and I now start to get nervous. Why would he call police for something like this? Up ahead, I'm able to see what looked like an open door, and when I looked up at him, I saw the creepy smile he now had. Obviously, this guy wasn't a bouncer, and he had other things planned. As a side note, I'm fairly small, about 5'3", 105 pounds. This guy was easily 6'5", 300 pounds. Just as he is about to push me into the room, I then hear somebody yell from down the hallway. He stops in his tracks, still not letting go, and now I can see Adam from earlier running up to me and this guy. This guy loses it and pushes me to the side. Clearly, Adam could see what was happening, and he comes to help me. As the struggle between them commences, I go to get help. Luckily, I'm able to catch the attention of a couple of bouncers, and I tell them about what was happening. As we're racing back, we each hear the sound of a loud pop go off. I fear the worst, as I recognize the noise. My dad is a police officer, and the pop sounded like an M9 or something similar going off. Needless to say, this crazy guy was armed and almost connected with Adam. Luckily, Adam was able to move at the last second and kick the weapon out of his grasp. The bouncers jump on this guy and were able to grab a hold of him. Eventually, the show is canceled and everybody is being moved out of the building. Police get called, and eventually, this creep is taken away. And that was pretty much it. It's just scary to think that had I not met Adam that night, or had he not gone to look for me, things might have turned out a whole lot differently. Story number 7. Never go to concerts by yourself. This took place back in 2014. I was 20 years old and I was obsessed with seeing bands play live. Up to that point, I must have seen over 40 different shows. Most of them were local indie bands, and I did see some bigger ones. Well, one evening I'd been in downtown LA, and I was going to see this show that consisted of a bunch of rock bands. They weren't really popular groups, but it was neat nonetheless. The only downside to the venue was that it was in a pretty sketchy area. The nearby streets were known to have a lot of history, and it definitely didn't help seeing small holes in the buildings and windows, and yellow caution tape too. Regardless, I convinced myself to go and check it out. Now, mind you, I'm not someone to easily push around. I used to be on the high school football team. I'm about 6'4", 290 pounds. But anyways, fast forward about an hour into the show, and I head outside to get some fresh air. That was when this homeless-looking man comes up to me.
Hey, you got any of the good stuff on you?
I knew what he was talking about, but unlike the rest of the crowd here, I was as clean as you could get. Sorry, my dude, I don't got any product on me.
Then maybe you have some money. Come on, give me something.
He was starting to annoy me, so I gave him $5, hoping he would get off my case. He now goes around the corner of the building, and I figured that's it. I head back inside, but only for about 15 minutes, as the smell inside was starting to get to me. Once again, I head outside, and I call an Uber to pick me up. I now go to the corner next to a parking lot, and I wait for my Uber to arrive. While looking at my phone, I begin to hear footsteps behind me. I turn around expecting to see fellow concert goers, but instead, it's the homeless guy from a bit earlier.
Hey, it's you. Do you have anything now? Come on, share it with me. Give me some of the good stuff they have in there.
Look, dude, I already gave you some money. I don't have anything else. Now, leave me alone, bro. This seemed to have angered him, and what he does next was truly creepy. He goes back to an alleyway, and once again, I feel he got in the idea to leave me alone. Instead, he returns with a rusty crowbar. He then starts walking toward me.
You're gonna have to pay up one way or another.
You can imagine my surprise. He comes at me and takes a swing, but I manage to dodge him and knock the crowbar out of his hands. I'm about to swing back, but he runs off into the alleyway. Figures as much. My Uber arrives 2 minutes later, and I end up having quite the story for him. Oh, and the next morning I learned that someone had been robbed while exiting the venue by themselves. The person was still on the run, but they described them exactly like Mr. Crowbar Dude. Luckily, they found someone who matched his description a couple of days later. Turned out, this wasn't the first time he had done this. It's just nice to know that he got what he deserved. So, as a friendly reminder, if you're ever going to go somewhere you've never been to, make sure you're prepared for the worst. Also, it's probably a great idea not to go alone. Before we get to the last story, I just want to say thank you once again for making it this far in the video. Remember, if you'd like to see more, including previews and exclusive content, then make sure to be following me over on my Instagram, @TheCreepyFoxOfficial. Thanks. On to the last story. Our last story for today. He said he was a music producer. I know this experience isn't as scary as the others, but it's still one my friends and I talk about from time to time. For some background context, I'm 19 years old, female, and I'm in a small band. Alongside me are my fellow guitarist, who we will call Emily, and her fiancé, Edward, who plays the keys. We weren't really anything too popular, but one day I got a call from a coffee shop owner that I knew. Hey, I'm gonna be putting together a show for a charity I'm holding. I'm trying to get as many local bands to play. Would the three of you like to join on in? Of course, we said yes, and we offered to play for them. The night in question arrives, and everything goes off fairly normally. After the set, we go next door to get a bite to eat. While I'm in line getting a salad, this older gentleman walks up behind me and he taps my shoulder.
Excuse me, you're Julia, the guitar player that was playing 20 minutes ago, right?
Yeah, that's me. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing okay. Hey, I just wanted to say I really enjoyed your band. You guys play really good music. By the way, I know this might be a little personal, but could I get your number? I'm a music producer and I'm looking for talent such as yourself.
He seemed pretty nice at first, but I told him we have a business email that he could contact me at instead. I went ahead and gave him one of my business cards. This seems to anger him a bit as he once again tells me,
I don't want your email. I want your number. Why? You don't trust me?
The people around us started to look over, and this guy starts to back up a bit. Look, sir, if you have any questions, I could answer them here, but you need to relax.
Whatever. I'll just leave.
If that wasn't creepy, it was about to get a whole lot worse. Fast forward an hour later, and myself along with Emily and Edward must make the hour drive back home. Edward was driving that evening, and I was in the passenger seat. Emily was fast asleep in the back. Soon we get on this highway and we're pretty much out in the countryside. There were just a few cars here and there, but all in all, we could just hear the sound of rain on our windshield. Seemingly out of nowhere, we're blinded by headlights in our rearview mirror. The car starts to approach, and it almost hits our bumper. Since this was a two-way highway, we figured the driver wanted to pass us. Edward goes ahead and drives to the side of the road, and we're hoping this guy will just pass by us. Instead, they ended up driving in front of us and parking. We were confused. Why did this guy stop there? Moments later, we see someone in a hoodie step out of the driver's side. Sure enough, it looks just like the guy from the restaurant hours earlier, the same one who claimed to be a music producer. Quickly, I tell Edward to floor it, but I think he was more interested in what this guy wanted. Edward is really protective of both Emily and I think he wanted to teach this guy a lesson. Hey, what's up? Why did you follow us out here to the middle of nowhere? He doesn't say a thing. Instead, we can see another set of headlights approach from behind, and they then parked behind us. Another group of men step out, and each of them appear to have things like crowbars and baseball bats. This was when Mr. Creepy Producer Guy announces,
Can you hear me inside there, Julia? Good. Because you're gonna pay for not giving me your number.
They then start making their way to our car, and they're hitting the side of it trying to break the windows. Here's the thing. Edward always has a .45 in the driver's side pocket. This was something I'd forgotten about. Guess that explained why he wasn't so scared to stop. He rolls down the window even more, and bam, he fires a warning shot into the night, and these guys book it into their cars. In the end, we drive off, and they make the smart choice not to follow us. Afterwards, we tell police, and I told them about the stranger. Nothing has come up as of yet, but if anything does, I'll be sure to let you all know. But for now, that's the end to my story.